here. Okay, this is the $50 bundle I mentioned earlier of comics and zines, and half of it is stuff I published through Blind Bat Press. The other stuff is other zines and comics that I have sitting around. So we'll start off with a copy of Comic Eye, which is the 176-page trade paperback with comics about comics. This one's signed by 25 creators, including Dave Sim, Mike Cherkis, Rob Walden, Alan Freeman, Bob Corby, Dan Taylor, Larry Blake, etc., etc. Lots of neat stuff in there. This is from about 2006, 2005. It's a 44-page romance anthology we made, covered by Bernie Moreau, and it's also signed by about 5 creators, including Larry Blake. This one's from 2005 as well. It's an anthology of this and that, and it's got Roll Geyer in it as well, and Larry Blake and local friends. This is a 3-issue miniseries we did in 1995 called Dreamtime by Henrik Rare. It's a 3-issue mysterious adventure. Henrik is a Danish cartoonist, so yeah, it's a really interesting story. It's really well done. Jim Woodring, the creator of Jim Comics from Fantagraphics, called Dreamtime a remarkable achievement. This is a 4th or 5th issue of an anthology, of a fanzine I made for a local comic club, and that's the only copy I have of that. This is a comic from about 2005 with stories, trying to get this centered here, with stories based on the TV show Hilarious House of Frightenstein, and it's about 28 pages. The entire comic is silk-screened, and it's a limited edition, and it's pretty neat. Sam Agro signed it, actually. In 1994 and 1995, I helped Mark Petlock distribute this zine that he made called Pulp Tattoo, this comic, and 4 issues, 28 pages, and it's a complete story in those 4 issues of his bizarre animated psychedelic wacky humor that you just have to read it for yourself to find out. It's pretty cool. Okay, in 1995 and 1996 as well, we did 2 issues of these deluxe. Sorry, just getting parallax here. These are 48-page adventures by Henrik and his friend Lars. Both are Danish cartoonists. And they're humorous science fiction stories. In 1993, I published this comic by John Miori and Greg Hyland. It's a funny animal horror thing. These were my first anthology comic from 1990, 91, 92 era. And they have Bernie Moreau and Matt Howarth and David Miller and Larry McDougall, Dan Taylor. Lots of neat stuff. In 1989, this was an earlier version of a digest I made that has a very nice cover by Larry McDougall, and it's pretty neat. This is the only This is the only copy I have of this available. And that won a UFO award that year. Okay, now to some other magazine-size things. I have a bunch of Chicago Comic-Con listings from 1995. It was like the up-to-the-minute events listings for the day of 1995. Told you what was going on. And I have a couple of different things from 95, 96. And it's kind of interesting to reminisce. There's an old, slightly battered print by Dave Sim from 1978 or so. A back drawing from Frank Thorne. He used to hand these out. Here's a zine I made in about 1999, and it's like a general interest fanzine with articles and stuff. This is a portfolio by Earl Geyer, and it contains 10 drawings he made that look like that, basically. And it's pretty interesting. I think he made it about 1978 or 79. This is a retail store poster set with images by Dennis Fujitaki showing his Dalgota character that he created with Jan Strand, which was they're really neat. I like these. These are great. This is a zine from about 1982 called Prince Sessions or something like this. Anyways, it's got a long interview with Leela Dowling, who's a fantasy artist who also worked for Eclipse Comics. Small Press Comics Explosion, Tim Corrigan's magazine. This is number 8, and number 9 that I have here. So those are great to have. It's fun looking through the articles back from the late 80s, mid 80s. This is Ron Kasman's comic he made about our Canadian Prime Minister from about 100 years ago. And it's pretty interesting. The comic was written and drawn in 1978, 79, but it wasn't published until 1980. And it's on newsprint, and it's kind of interesting. These are 2 magazines that came out in the United States around 1982, Whispers and Shadows. Trying to get this in front here. This has a full story by Earl Geyer. It's a book-length book-length adventure by him, just about. That's just one of the greatest comics I read. And this one also has work by Earl Geyer on it. So these are great magazines. I recommend it. Here's Earl Geyer's Bald Ego 1 and 2 from I'm trying to get them in the camera there. And 2 great zines that he made. Not many of these around. I don't know what they go for on eBay, but they're not common anymore. And they're about 40 pages of very good comics. This was Earl's relaunch of Bald Ego in 1985. This was the first issue of that. And it's got some good stuff in it. From 2003 to 2013, I had a career as a background performer. And in 2005, I picked up this newspaper from this set of Resident Evil Apocalypse. It contains fake, it's a prop newspaper from the day. And these sell on eBay for $10, but I'm throwing that in. This is a zine I made in 1997. It's about 48 pages and has articles and comics. And if you like zines, this is chock full of interesting articles about collecting and oddball comic strips. This was an 8-page zine by Sam Agro from 1988, a zombie parody. Here's 2 more issues, number 2 and number 3 of our local comic club newsletter, and they're pretty interesting articles on comics. I like them. I edited them, did the best I could. I have the 1992 issue of Tetragrammaton Fragments. It was a UFO newsletter, and this is the All Comics issue, and I drew a 4-pager in this one. You can see there on the right-hand side. Anyways, lots of neat stuff in this. That's a desirable book. I have a stack of issues, 14 to 20 of Comic Tales, Jim Pack zine. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 issues, including this one with this amazing Tim Corrigan cover, which I just think is fantastic. Another good one in here too. Anyways, so there's that. Oh, here's another Comic Tales, although I don't know who drew this cover. I think it's Tim Corrigan again. Pretty cool. Here's one of Tim Corrigan's comics and story zines, number 6. Two issues of Dan Taylor's Time Warp funnies. Basically, it's old school late 70s minis. I found a couple of Matt Feasel zines. Oh, my stuff is falling over. A John McLeod, Dishman Space Kid. This is his zine from 1995 about the death of Kurt Cobain. I found this Mini Mart zine from, when was this from? 1988. So you can look through it and see what was advertised for sale. It's a good idea. And I found this jam card that Bernie made. He used to hand out years ago. Maybe this is 15 or 20 years old. And there's one more thing. I thought I was done, but I wasn't. I'm also putting everything inside this 1992 Capital City Conference bag, which has the 30th anniversary of Spider-Man on the one side. So $50 for everything and 20 postage, 70 in check or PayPal.